Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, No Filter Global. We all know Albert Einstein. He is basically the universal symbol for genius. His ideas completely changed how we understand the universe, from time to gravity. He was incredibly famous while he was alive, almost like a rock star of science. But being that famous comes with a downside. People become obsessed with you. And sometimes, that obsession doesn't stop when you die. On April 18, 1955, Albert Einstein died at Princeton Hospital in New Jersey. He was 76 years old. Before he died, Einstein was very clear about what he wanted to happen to his body. He didn't want people coming to visit his grave. He didn't want a big monument. He specifically said he wanted to be cremated, burned to ashes, and those ashes spread secretly so no one could worship the spot where he lay. His family wanted to respect those wishes. But on the day he died, something went very wrong. Within hours of his death, the most famous brain in human history was stolen. And the crazy part is, the thief got away with it for decades. So, who stole it? It wasn't a master criminal. It wasn't a spy. It was the pathologist on duty at the hospital that night. His name was Dr. Thomas Harvey. A pathologist is a doctor who studies the causes of diseases, and they are usually the ones who perform autopsies, examining a body after death to find out exactly why the person died. Dr. Harvey was assigned to perform Einstein's autopsy. During the procedure, Dr. Harvey made a split-second decision that changed his life forever. Without asking Einstein's family, and without permission from the hospital, he removed Einstein's brain. Instead of putting it back in the body for cremation, he put it in a jar of preservative fluid. The rest of Einstein's body was cremated shortly after, just as he wanted. His family had a small, private service. They had no idea the brain was missing. A few days later, the news broke. The New York Times published a front-page story saying that Einstein's brain had been saved for scientific study. The Einstein family was shocked and furious. Einstein's son, Hans Albert, confronted Dr. Harvey. It was a tense situation. Harvey wasn't a famous brain expert. He was just a regular hospital pathologist. He had no real right to have that brain. But Harvey pleaded with Hans Albert. He argued that this was a unique chance for humanity. He promised that the brain would only be used for serious scientific research, never for money or fame. Reluctantly, Einstein's son agreed to let Harvey keep it. He hoped that maybe, just maybe, scientists could look at that brain and figure out where genius comes from. You might think that after getting permission, the brain went to a high-tech university lab. But that's not what happened. Shortly after the theft, Dr. Harvey lost his job at Princeton Hospital. They weren't happy about the negative attention he brought them. But when Harvey left, he took the brain with him. This began one of the weirdest road trips in history. For the next 40 years, Dr. Harvey moved around the country. He lived in Kansas, Missouri, and other places. He worked different medical jobs, but he always kept the brain close. Imagine this. The physical source of the theory of relativity was traveling around America in the trunk of a car. Harvey was incredibly possessive of the brain. He felt a huge responsibility. He knew he couldn't study it alone. He wasn't trained for that. His plan was to cut pieces of the brain and send them to leading scientists around the world. So, that's what he did. In a lab in Philadelphia, he took photos of the whole brain. Then, he cut it into about 240 small blocks. He took those blocks and sliced them incredibly thin, putting them on microscope slides. He started mailing these slides to experts. He would send a little package with a note basically saying, "Here is a piece of Einstein. Tell me what you find." Dr. Harvey waited for the results to roll in. He expected groundbreaking discoveries. He thought the secrets of genius would be revealed within a few years. He waited and waited. For decades, almost nothing happened. The scientists who received the samples either didn't have the right technology to analyze them yet, or they simply found nothing special. It just looked like a regular old man's brain. It wasn't until the mid-1980s, 30 years after Einstein died, that the first real scientific paper appeared. Over the years, a few studies have made some interesting claims. One study suggested Einstein's brain had more glial cells than average. These are the cells that support and feed the thinking neurons. The theory was that his neurons needed more energy because they were working so hard. Another famous study in the 1990s claimed that a specific part of his brain called the parietal lobe was missing a usual groove, making that area slightly wider than normal. This area is involved in mathematical thought and visual spatial skills, imagining objects in space. This made sense, given how Einstein visualized his theories. But here is the truth: many scientists criticized these studies. The sample sizes were tiny, and Einstein was an old man when he died, so his brain had changed a lot over time anyway. To this day, there is nothing in that physical brain that truly explains his brilliance. While these slow scientific studies were happening, the world mostly forgot about Dr. Harvey and his stolen treasure. Then, in the late 1990s, a journalist named Michael Paternity decided to track the story down. He wanted to know what happened to Harvey and the brain. He found Thomas Harvey living in a small town in New Jersey again. Harvey was an old man by then, living a very quiet life. The journalist asked him where the brain was. Harvey simply said, "I'll show you." This is the saddest and strangest part of the story. The brain wasn't in a vault. It wasn't in a high-tech freezer. Harvey went to a closet in his house. He pulled out a cardboard box that used to hold cider bottles. Underneath some old newspapers, there were 2 large glass mason jars filled with alcohol. Inside those jars were the remaining chunks of Albert Einstein's brain. For years, the most valuable scientific artifact of the 20th century had been sitting in a cider box, sometimes hidden under a beer cooler in an old man's closet. The journalist, Michael Paternity, actually ended up driving the elderly Dr. Harvey across the country one last time to meet Einstein's granddaughter in California. It was a strange trip to try and get some closure. Eventually, Dr. Harvey realized he was getting too old to protect the brain. Before he died in 2007, he donated the remaining pieces to the pathologist at Princeton Hospital, the same place where the story started 50 years earlier. Today, you can actually see some of the microscope slides of Einstein's brain on display at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. So, what do we learn from this bizarre story? Dr. Thomas Harvey wasn't an evil villain. He was a man who got caught up in a moment of history and made a questionable ethical choice. He spent his whole life guarding this treasure, hoping it would reveal a great secret. He never tried to get rich off it. But in the end, the theft probably didn't help science much at all. It mostly just caused pain for Einstein's family. It seems Einstein was right to want to be cremated. He knew that his genius wasn't in the meat and nerves inside his skull. His genius was in his curiosity, his imagination, and the incredible ideas he left behind for all of us. Thanks for watching. If you liked this strange slice of history, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.